incident that's behind me. We're watching on YouTube in my virtual background between the Golden State Warriors, the Minnesota Timberwolves last night, Rudy Gobert, Jared Vanderbilt, obviously Draymond Green, and Klay Thompson. Now, there wasn't, in my opinion, a ton of this fight. Did Draymond allegedly, put Rudy Gobert in a sleeper / chokehold wrestling maneuver? Yeah, he did. But Draymond was going after Rudy Gobert, who looked like he was going after Klay Thompson. It was sort of a weird incident where Klay, who never really gets involved in any trouble, and Vanderbilt were sort of fighting. Vanderbilt grabbed his jersey, Klay grabbed his, it got ripped up. It was just a crazy incident. But everybody's all up in arms about this, saying, Draymond Green's history, Draymond Green needs to be suspended, yada, yada, yada. And I'm actually going to disagree with that assessment. I think this is the best thing that happened to the NBA in almost a decade. Listen, the malice and the powers was brutal, but it brought a physicality to basketball. And what we've seen over the last decade in the NBA, as we've seen more teams kind of go to this 3-point shooting, and not only that, but less inside scoring. And we've seen sort of the buddy system in the NBA where there are no real rivalries anymore. I think the only true rivalry in the NBA was really Cavs Golden State during those 4 years when those two teams faced off in 4 straight NBA finals. We need this more in basketball. We need more players that like each other. We need more fights. We need more physicality. We need more pushing and shoving. I'm not saying go back to the 90s and checking and all that. I'm just saying sometimes, and listen, the referees had to break this up. This obviously could have turned into a terrible incident. I didn't think it was anything too crazy over the top. I say technical fouls on both Klay Thompson and Vanderbilt, and sort of, just let Draymond and Rudy Gobert go. We sort of monitor the game. We let it all out. I think the NBA and this generation, especially ever since Adam Silver has become commissioner, and again, it is the second biggest sport. It is now a more global sport. We're seeing superstars like Luka Doncic, Victor Wembanyama, Nikola Jokic, Giannis Antetokounmpo take over the sport, and so we know which direction the NBA is going. We know that these European players were brought up in a more tough environment, which is why a lot of the times the USA team now struggles in the World FIBA play because it's different rules, it's more physical, and the international players are used to it. I think the NBA needs to make some adjustments. I think the referees sometimes are calling way too many fouls way too quickly. Then there's times where they don't call anything at all. I've talked about the NBA officiating in the past, how biased it can be at times and how brutal it can be at times. But fights like this, I think, is why we like sports. I've never been a fan of, oh, that's ugly, get fighting out of sports. I think fighting builds character. I think it builds team bonding. I think it shows toughness. And I think in the end, both of these teams will be better from it. Again, should Draymond have grabbed Rudy Gobert by the neck? Probably not, but it's natural instinct when you are obviously defending your teammate. And the whole NBA hates Draymond Green, and I hated him too when the Cavs were going through that battle with Golden State. Bottom line is, he's the type of player that when he's on your team, you love him. When he's not on your team, you hate him. And, you need glue guys. You need edge guys to win championships. And there's a reason why, even though he only scores, 4 points a game, he arguably next to Curry, who is obviously out now, unfortunately, and he's not going to be playing for what sounds like a couple of weeks. But next to Curry, Draymond Green is the second most important player on the Golden State Warriors because of his championship pedigree, because of his toughness, because he brings aspects like that. Again, I like Minnesota. Anthony Edwards and Draymond Green were chopping it up back and forth the other night. This essentially kicked off the game tonight, and I think it brings real rivalries back to the sport, and I think physicality in the NBA is needed, and I think that all around, I know a lot of people don't like it, but I thought that this was a perfect example of how you can get back to the way the NBA used to be, and the NBA wants to compete with the National Football League. This is the way you do it. Let your players get a little bit more physical in what should be a little bit more of a physical game, in my opinion, that being the game of basketball. Like that clip from the Brand Sports Podcast? If so, make sure you go down there and hit that subscribe button. while you're down there hitting the subscribe button, make sure to also hit the notification bell so you never miss another upload. And make sure you check out all the other clips from the Brandon's World podcast right here on YouTube.